Alrighty then. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to episode 17 of the Weekly Wob. We have a very special guest with us this week, Mr. Todd Wonderland.
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm going to introduce myself.
If you want to.
Introduce me for me. Come on now. All right. I don't know who I'm talking to, but my name is Mr. Wonderland. I am a history teacher, social studies teacher at Highland High School in the Black Horse Pike Regional School District, currently sitting in my classroom. I am a 9th year teacher at Highland, and this is my 10th year teaching overall. I had both Travis and Jake last year in my US 1 Honors History class, and I literally have no idea what we're about to talk about. So let's just dive in, shall we?
Yes, we shall. So, first question we have here is, how has it been teaching during the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly been an adjustment. None of us teachers signed up for online teaching. I know that, like online teaching is a thing that is possible in some schools in some areas, but none of us signed up for it. So just like students were in the spring, we were thrust into it. We kind of like treaded water to make it through the end of the year and just did what we had to do to get through the end of the year. Over the summer, we made some adjustments, obviously, to the schedule, to how we were operating things and how we were running things, and came up with some solid plans. But it's certainly still been an adjustment. I mean, dealing with technology issues, figuring out different websites, different apps that we've never really used before, and then also trying to accommodate students who are in school, students who are at home, students who we don't even see at all. I mean, some of my kids I have literally not seen, as far as I know, a day in my life. And yet, I've still got to reach them, connect to them. Not only, provide instruction and get the content to them and the materials, but also, I think you guys know, one of the most important things between a teacher and a student is that relationship and building that relationship between teachers and students. It's really hard now because we don't get to see our kids in school and in person, and we don't, even get to make jokes like we do normally during normal years. We don't get to have like off-topic conversations, which is a big way that connections can be made. So it certainly has been an adjustment. I think, we're all still trying to adjust and get better at this. But I can't wait till things are back to normal.
Definitely.
Respectable.
Yeah. And that whole relationship thing, from experience, I guess, I was always excited to go to your class just because I liked you as a teacher, as opposed to, well, I'm not going to say it, but some other teachers. And I was like, yeah, history is going to be great. But then I walk into English and I'm like, oh, I hate this.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Thank you. It's my memories from school, and particularly high school, aren't memories about what I learned or necessarily like content. My favorite classes weren't even necessarily history classes, but they were the classes in which I made connections with teachers. I established relationships with teachers, and I took those relationships with me on in the rest of my life. And you guys know I'm lucky enough to now teach in the school that I attended, and so now I'm a peer with my teachers from high school, and I established this relationship on the basis of those strong foundations from when I was in school. So it's not necessarily the content, and I as a history teacher, there's a million and one things to know about history. I don't expect my students to walk away with a solid understanding of literally everything I teach in every topic. But I hope that my students walk away with a memory of a pretty solid relationship with me.
Heck yeah. I know me and Jake both did.
Jake and I, yep.
I am good at English.
Yeah, man, definitely.
But you said that you went to Highland as a high school student. So what was it like being a student at Highland to teaching at Highland?
So, I mean, being a student here, I mean, you guys know it's a similar experience to what you guys are experiencing. I know, I graduated in 2006, so it was 15 years ago, practically. But I think the student aspect hasn't really changed all that much. But going to be a teacher here, you know, it was definitely a change. Now I'm referring to my colleagues as Bonnie and Joanne instead of Mrs. Brady and Mrs. Fidala. So that was a shift. Didn't take too long to get comfortable with that. But, you know, the first couple months working here when I started back in 2012 definitely took a little bit of an adjustment. But one of the best things I like, my favorite things about now teaching here is that since I grew up in this area and since, you know, I know the neighborhood, I know the demographics of the student body, that helps me make more connections with students. Like, I think if I went to a totally different school district and had no connection with that area, it would take me a while to establish those types of connections and relationships. Whereas now I can say, oh, my favorite restaurant is Sharky's, and you guys know what I'm talking about. So being able to have the same types of experiences when I was in high school as my students have now, I think definitely, again, helps to solidify those relationships and you know, make more meaningful connections.
Cool.
Okay. What else do we got for Mr. Wendell? I don't have
tisk. But how different is it from teaching this year than it was last year? Because obviously last year, like, we were full remote. We didn't really like have a plan. We were kind of just trying to get through the year. But now this year we like have a plan, like school once a week, Google Meet once a week, and then the other 3 days you're just like on your own. So how is it like differ from last year?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there are certain challenges to this year that are nothing like we experienced in the spring. In this, like I said earlier, you know, I kind of compare it to just treading water. We're not actually making forward progress in the spring. We didn't actually, you know, like do anything revolutionary. And it's just a matter of like, let's reach the finish line. Let's just like kind of stay status quo, post assignments every day. Students do those assignments or not. But students do those assignments, and let's just get it done and get to June. But starting a school year like this, the district established this plan with some input from parents and from teachers and from students, and from community members. And then it just was a whole drastic shift. I mean, now we're talking about basically 3 different types of class, right? You've got your in-person lesson with students in the classroom, whether it's 1 student or 8 students. You've got your Wednesday Zoom, Google Meet, whatever, where it's, you know, up to 30 students in a class. And then you've got the 3 classes that are outside, like you said. In a teaching world, we call them asynchronous work. But basically it's the on your own stuff. So having to adjust, you know, my expectations for those different types of lessons, having to adjust the curriculum that I teach, because we went from seeing you guys, you know, an hour a day, a minimum of 3 days a week, usually 4 days a week. Now we go to seeing you 70 minutes total throughout the course of the week. So, you know, 40 minutes in person and 30 minutes on Wednesdays. And for full remote students, Jake, you know this, you see your teachers for 30 minutes a week, and that's it. Yeah. So it's like a 1/6 to an 1/8 of the amount of time that you saw them last year when we, you know, pre-quarantine. So having to kind of be realistic about what we can and cannot do. I think some teachers are having trouble with that, you know, like adjusting what they teach and how much they can actually dive into stuff, because it's not realistic. We don't have the time, we don't have the resources, we don't have the capability of doing that. So creating these different types of lessons, learning different websites, adjusting our materials that, you know, I've been teaching 10 years. Some of my materials, not all certainly, but some of my materials I've used for the past 6, 7, 8 years. Now I got to adjust it so that it's able to be done, without any guidance from me if it's an asynchronous lesson, or so that it's able to be done via Zoom at the same time, or if they're in person, great, but able to be done with only one or two or three people as opposed to a full class in school. And then also, trying to reduce the amount of content overall. You guys know in US 1 history, we cover 25 chapters of the textbook at about 20 or 20 pages a chapter. So you're looking at, I don't know, I'm not a math teacher, but 400 or 500 pages of content. Having to reduce that and really focus on what's really important, the most significant things. It's a shame because a lot of the fun stuff kind of gets left behind and cast aside, but it's the reality of the situation. We can't cover everything. We can't teach everything. And so really having to adjust our expectations and adjust our instructional strategies has been the hardest part for me. And I think most teachers.
Yeah, definitely. Just as a full remote, my experience has been like, I don't know, it's obviously being in school is a lot better. And I think that just being in that school setting helped me a lot more. I didn't realize it until we started this year. Because even last spring, I still felt I was doing okay. But then starting this year this way, I feel like I'm struggling just a little bit. And like motivation is a lot harder to find. And the schedule, the way it is, where it's like, okay, the week kind of goes from Wednesday to Tuesday. Having the week to work on things is nice, but then I need to, budget my time, in an efficient way, and I haven't found that yet, unfortunately.
Yeah. One of the things I've talked about it a couple times over the past several weeks, is that you went from being in school 7.5 hours a day, 5 days a week, and doing certainly some stuff outside of school, homework, projects, whatever. Now you are in school. I mean, you have to be present. If you're fully remote, 1 day a week, that's it, from 8 to 1, so 5 hours. But then you've got all of this stuff you have to do on your own. And so it is almost like you're jumping into a college type schedule in which, in college, you guys don't know yet, or maybe from older siblings or whatever. But in college, you're in any given class, like 2.5 hours a week, 2.5, maybe 3 hours a week. Let's say you have 5 classes, so 15 hours total that you're in person. But then the expectation, when I started college, we met with the dean of students during freshman orientation, and she told us that the expectation is for every hour that you are in school, you spend 3 hours on work for that class outside of class. So if you say, okay, 3 hours a week per class, you have 5 classes, that's 15 hours. Well, then that's an additional 45 hours that you need to do outside of the classroom. It's kind of what you're experiencing now, Jake. Like, you're in school 5 hours a week, that's it. And then the rest of your week, you have to budget your time. You have to manage your time and make sure that you stay on task, organized. Don't let things fall by the wayside. And certainly, do your best not to procrastinate, because that Tuesday at 11:59 deadline's coming, and it's coming quick. And if you, leave all your stuff until Tuesday at 10 o'clock, you're kind of screwed. And not all you guys are more motivated than some of our other students. And so not all of our students have that time management skill and the ability to chunk their schedule and make sure that they prioritize what's important and get that stuff done, so that they don't end up rushing at the last minute and having a bunch of missings in the grade book, stuff like that. It's tough.
It's really tough.
Yep.
Well, meanwhile, Jake and I, good grammar.
Good grammar.
Have like 10 assignments that we procrastinate on that are due today.
Yes.
Yeah, I made a list this morning, and it was like, there's like 9 things to do here. And some of them are more involved than others. Like, one of them is just to take a quiz, and it's 10 questions. It's not that difficult. But one of them's like, I want you to find an article and write a thesis statement about this article. And I'm like, oh,
You got to find the article first. It's going to take some time, right?
Definitely.
And instead, here you are podcasting. So hey,
Heck yeah!
I thought this was at night, and then Travis texted me, "Oh, we're doing it now," and I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, when Travis first posed it to me, he was like, all right, well, we record on Wednesdays at 11 p.m. I was like, nope, sorry.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You got to work around your special guest schedule, you know?
I should have put 2 and 2 together, but...
Yes.
But next question we have here is, how do you feel about the Wednesday setup for school? Like having each period be a half hour long, then have like half-hour lunch break, I think it is. Like, just how do you feel about it, I guess is the best way to put it.
So, again, I don't think any of us teachers went into this knowing how to do anything like that. Before this school year, the largest Zoom or Google Meet that I had ever led, it was like 6 kids, and that was for my senior class advisors or senior class executive board members. So I didn't know what a Zoom with 30 kids was going to look like. I didn't know how I was necessarily going to operate that, to organize that, and run that. I do think that we've adjusted. We've been, 5 weeks into this now, so I think that we've made adjustments and we've kind of learned some things and changed some things up based on, what we've experienced. Still, there are always going to be tech issues. I was talking with Mr. Oberg, who you guys can maybe get on here in the future, talking with him about it last week, and he said he got kicked out of his own Zoom meeting like 3 times during the same period. And luckily the kids were like good enough to hang in there and hang out for him to get back in. But, teachers are having these issues, so I know that students are. So that poses all sorts of its own problems. And we try to fix that, or at least alleviate that, by recording the meetings and posting the meetings and all that stuff. But they're definitely the tech issues. And then it's a matter of, in the beginning, we couldn't require students to have their cameras on. And so it was, I'm talking to 30 black screens, or like 27 black screens, and 3 kids who's, it's the top half of their head, and then that's it, and the ceiling. It's gotten a little better, now that we've got the requirement, the cameras have to be on and whatnot. But it's still difficult to have any conversation. And I think it's, going off of that, I think it's based on the class. It's going to be different depending on what class you're teaching. Some classes that are more discussion based, like you guys know, your class last year, my honors class, basically the whole class, I try to have it be as discussion based as possible and have participation and hear from everybody and bounce ideas off of each other. That's not nearly as logistically feasible as it is in person, because you just don't have the same flow. A class of 30, you don't have the same flow, the same energy that you do in the classroom. So, we're trying to make things work, trying to adjust on the fly. And I think we are getting better each week, as teachers and students. It's just a matter of nothing's perfect. There's always going to be issues. There's always going to be technical problems. And there's always going to be things that we can't necessarily accomplish through the computer that we can accomplish in school. And so it's just a matter of trying to be realistic about that and figure out the best way to operate.
Yeah, about the whole trying to have a conversation. I don't know what it is, Travis. I think you understand what I'm going to say. It's like nobody wants to talk on the Google Meet, and there's really no good reason as to why that is, because we're fine talking in person for the most part. At least I didn't have an issue if I got called on.
Right.
But now this year, sitting in front of a computer at home, there's something, obviously it's different, but I don't understand how it's so different that I just don't want to talk at all.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's the fact that you're sitting in your house and so it's your private residence, and maybe there's that feeling of privacy there's a wall that's being broken down when you start talking to a computer screen with your classmates on it, or what. But I know what you're saying. As a teacher, I have to talk, so I don't have a choice. Yeah. But I definitely know what you're saying. And even when if I ask for volunteers, kids, I get it'll be like a class when I get like 4 or 5 volunteers to answer a question or whatever, and then it's the same people over and over again. But that's not how I want to operate things. I want to hear from everybody. I want to acknowledge that people know what I'm talking about and are with me, as opposed to getting lost and falling behind. But you're right. It's just, even if I call on somebody specifically, you got the lag time. They're maybe experiencing technical difficulties themselves. And then I think it's a lot of just that anxiety about talking in front of, the class of 30 on Zoom that might not necessarily be experienced in the classroom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know I tried in English to give an answer, and then my teacher's like, well, I can't understand you. You're cutting out. And I'm like, this is frustrating.
Uh-huh.
And I just had to take the answer out, and it's like, every attempt I've made, it's always ended in like, oh, I can't understand what you're saying. And it's probably just because, well, now it's different because my brother, he's in 4th grade, and he goes, like, my dad has an office that he just works by himself in. So my brother goes with him, and he works on his schoolwork at that office. So I'm just home alone.
Right.
So there's less people on the Wi-Fi, so there's more room for me. And
which is probably better, right?
Maybe that issue won't happen now because of that. But I know beforehand, when I'm sitting at my kitchen table, my brother's right here on my left, and my mom's helping him. So I have to listen to his Zoom call while I'm on my Zoom call. And it's just a lot going on.
A lot going on. More people using Wi-Fi, so it's probably spottier coverage.
Yeah.
It's all the stuff.
For me, at least, like for the Wednesday Zoom meetings, I'm on the Wi-Fi. My 2 sisters are on the Wi-Fi, and my mom's doing her job for the Wi-Fi. So, and where I am right now, I'm like farthest away from like where the whatever it is. So like, I'm not in a good spot with everyone on the Wi-Fi and being on the wrong side of the house. So during like Zoom meetings for Sense class, like sometimes we have to have our discussion questions open. My computer just can't handle that. So I'm sitting here just listening to Sam talk. And I'm just like, man, I wish I could be looking at my discussion questions right now. Because like my computer just can't handle that.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Like,
And I've heard like some of my kids pulled up discussion questions on their phone or pulled up notes on their phone and stuff, but not everybody has the ability to do that. And then you're looking at 2 different things at once. You're looking at your phone, but then also trying to stay engaged in the discussion or whatever's going on your computer. So it's definitely technical difficulties for sure.
Yeah.
How much longer do we have you for? Like 5, 7? Okay, so you are the coach of tennis team.
That's right.
Guys and girls team. So how is it like coaching tennis during all of this?
I mean, I honestly didn't know what was going to happen this fall with sports. In the spring, it was kind of like, all right, see you guys later. And we posted workouts for you and whatnot. But, there wasn't any, again, kind of like it was the same as teaching, just treading water to make it through the end of the season. I obviously hope that my athletes did the workouts I posted and whatnot, but there was no like face-to-face communication or anything. Now we had a pretty solid placement plan, starting with the NJSIA, the New Jersey Interscholastic Sports Association, whatever. But then going from there, like our district created the plan to get back to athletics. But I'm looking around, on any given day of practice or a match right now, and there are probably 300 or 400 athletes at Highland. If we've got a bunch of different games going on, and we've got field hockey, soccer, cross country. We don't have volleyball, but football, all levels, tennis, all levels, varsity, JV, freshman. There are a lot of people here, and when people are playing sports, they don't have to be wearing a mask, which is great. But it also exposes athletes to that risk of contamination. So tennis is easier. As the sports go, you're already physically distanced. You're 78 feet apart from one another. Even in doubles, there's only 4 people on one court. So tennis is an easier sport, and I feel very glad and lucky that this is the sport that I coach, because it does make it easier than head-to-head football contact. But still, there are certain things that we can't do that are norms in the sport, like shaking hands with your opponent, shaking hands with the other coach. We have to have separate cans of balls for each team. So one team has their can of balls with their Sharpie lettered on it, and then the other team has their can. So there are definitely adjustments that had to be made. But the one thing I will say is, like, it's nice to be out there. It's nice to have that sense of normalcy and tennis matches going on, practices. It's nice to get outside, obviously, and be active. I like to lead an active lifestyle, and it's nice to be outside and be active. But it's also just to have that sense of normalcy, that at least we're still able to do this. I don't know how long. I think we're very lucky to have made it this far. We're at this point, we're 3 weeks into the season, a little over. And I certainly hope it continues and we finish out the year strong. But it's nice to have that outlet, definitely. And I think my girls experience the same thing.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of sad when the season just stopped last year before we even got a match in.
Yeah. I mean, we had a week of practice, and we were hoping to be, something pretty solid last year, and then build on that success this year. I mean, hopefully we have a season this year too, but we're just going to have to jump back in. And now you guys it'll almost be like you're 2 years removed from playing competitive tennis.
Mm-hmm.
So, and all spring sports are going to be that way. So having to make that jump to the level at which you'll need to perform and compete, it's going to be difficult. And it's definitely going to take some work and some added extra time and stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
It is. Well, for every episode, we kind of have like a story time where us and our guest just like tell a funny random story from any time in their life. So while we have you for the last like 3 minutes, would you like to tell a story?
Sure. A story. Couldn't have prepared me for this one, huh, Trav? Come with a story, Mr. Wonderland.
We usually tell our guests that.
Oh, I got a good story for you. So you guys know that I'm into Hamilton. Obviously, both the history of it, but then the musical is also pretty awesome. The rapping and all that stuff, right? The dialogue. So, and I think that tells an awesome story in and of itself. But so, pretty funny story is last week I'm sitting in my classroom, and you guys know I have my cardboard cut out of Alexander Hamilton. Sitting in my room, it's like 7:05 or something. Like teachers are coming in, and if you guys didn't know, teachers are actually able to bring their kids to school if their children's school is fully remote. So let's say my daughter's not obviously school aged, but if she were school aged and her school was fully remote, I would actually be able to bring her into Highland. They have a room for all these kids to go to, and then they can like do work in there and be supervised and get help with work while I'm off teaching. So anyway, so Mr. Gore, guidance counselor, was walking down the hallway, and all of a sudden his son looks into my room and he's like, "Is that Alexander Hamilton?" And his dad, Mr. Gore, was like, I don't know. So I was like, it is. He's like, can I take a picture with him? So he came in, he took a picture with my cardboard cutout of Alexander Hamilton. I guess he really likes Hamilton. He saw, the stuff around my room, my posters, stuff, my mask that I got, my Hamilton mask. And then a couple periods later, I was like, great, love it. Thanks, Mr. Gore. Have a good day, whatever. A couple periods later, his son walks into my room and brings me a piece of custom-made artwork that is Hamilton-based. And I was like, man, that's pretty cool. He's like a 7-year-old kid. He's this into Hamilton. He's like all about it. Super excited to give me this piece of artwork. I was like, man, this is pretty cool to make this connection with a kid that I don't even know. But that was pretty cool. So I thought that was enjoyable. He literally just popped into my like 7th period class and was like, here you go. I was like, awesome. Where should I hang it up? So that was pretty cool. So that's my story. Making connections, all over the place, even places you wouldn't imagine.
Heck yeah.
That's right.
Well, thanks for coming on. We know you have a busy schedule because you're literally in the middle of school right now.
That's right.
But thanks
But,
for coming on. We appreciate you
of
making
course,
time
guys.
for us.
Anytime. And yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
See you
right,
later.
gentlemen. See ya. Have a good rest of the day. Jake, do
You
your
too.
work.
Okay, well.
See ya.
See ya. And we are back.
Part 2.
Part 2. So, kind of explain what happened in the first half hour. Obviously, we had Wonderland as our guest, but he could only be on for half hour because he could only do a half hour because he was in school. That was one of his break periods that he so graciously decided to spend with us.
So you just get us for the other half.
Ayo. So, Jake,
So,
take your hat off.
oh yeah, my hair changed color from the beginning of the episode to this part of the episode. Blonde now. Well, yellow, but blonde. Ramen noodle head be like, yeah.
Your hair's sticking like straight up.
I know it is straight up right now. I don't really know why, but yeah.
Why'd you do it to him?
Why did I do it?
Yeah,
Because you told me to.
I didn't tell you to.
No, you didn't. But Bree told me to, and the band was like, "Hey, it would be funny if we were all blonde." And I was like, "Okay." And I did it.
I would like
And
it to be known. I had no part in this decision. I never text back in the group chat, so
yeah, no, Travis is the least active participant of the group chat.
I agreed sometimes, but if I like come back and there are like 95 messages, I'm not trying to read through all of them, you know.
Yeah.
And then I'll ask everyone to sum it up for me, and then they'll just be like, "Oh, just go back in the chat." But I'm like, "Fam, that's like 95 messages. That's too many. Just sum it up in one text."
Yeah. It happens.
Today was another Wednesday asynchronous learning.
Oh, jeez. You want to talk about your day first?
My day was actually kind of chill. I went to gym, did nothing there. Went to intro, did nothing there. Went to bio, took some notes. Personal finance, got let out like 15 minutes early, so I had an extended lunch, which was pretty fire. Then went to history, kind of just vibed there for a bit. English, also just vibed there for a bit. Band, did nothing. And then calc, pre-calc, wow. Just took notes. That was my boring day. Woohoo. What did you do, Jake?
Well, I went into pre-calc first period. Didn't do much. Got let out like 20 minutes early. Went into gym. Miss Blazy explained for like the third straight week about how to do this weekly workout log. Because people still don't get it, and I don't understand why. It's not that hard.
It's just like 3 simple questions. It's like, oh, what workout do you do? How difficult was it?
Yeah.
What's so hard about that?
I don't know, dude. And then I went to psych and we reviewed for our test coming up this week, I guess. Played Quizlet Live, in which it sucked because you couldn't talk to anybody. And sometimes people just wouldn't answer. So you just sit there doing nothing the whole time, which is real fun. So Sarah and I were like, wow, this is really boring. And it sucked too. And then I went to English and I was kind of vibe there. I had lunch, I forget what I did during lunch, but that's when my leg started hurting. So that sucked. And then went into history and listened to other people answer questions, but not us, not us. Then I went to bio and listened to Mr. Neelis's kid cry, and you know, listen to him go through notes and then talk about how we have a big exam coming up that covers everything we've talked about so far, or at least the last two things we did. But I think there's only been two things, so everything. That's fun. Then I did not go to personal finance because Mr. Dennison could not figure out the Zoom again. So I made a salad instead and went to hung out until Italian. And then in Italian, I started learning about food and like restaurants and the eating habits of Italians compared to Americans. The Italians, their breakfast is very light. Like they don't eat like eggs and bacon or anything like savory for that matter. It's more just like I'm gonna eat this croissant or I'm gonna have this bowl of cereal. um, and then for lunch, it's like the biggest meal of the day. And then they don't eat dinner until like 8 o'clock at night, or a little bit later than that. And that meal is a little bit less heavy than lunch, but a lot more than breakfast.
In French, we learned about that stuff our freshman year, and like breakfast is their biggest meal of the day. They kind of just go light on everything else.
Kind of weird. And also Italians, like, I guess we kind of talked about this in English, but like they really just be sleeping from like 12 to 2.
They do be.
Like they really and like people traveling there, like Americans, like visiting Italy, some of them don't do their research and are like pissed off that everything's closed from around that time because in Italy it's the norm for people to go home, eat lunch, and just chill for a little bit before going back into work. Which honestly, I like that better than the way we do it here in America.
Go America.
Like, I don't know. The fact that, we, as a country just work through the whole day, 9 to 5, or, whatever your hours are, it's like, I don't know. People are always just done after work and they don't want to do anything and nothing productive happens afterwards. But like imagine how much better it would be if we stopped in the middle of our day and just had like an hour or 2 hours to just relax, and then we could go back into back into work.
That's what a lunch break is.
True, but not everybody not everybody has a lunch break, Travis.
Who wouldn't have a lunch break?
A lot of jobs, actually.
Like what?
None that I can name. But they're definitely not like going home and taking a nap.
Oh, definitely not. Most lunch breaks are like you get to leave the office, maybe like go to a restaurant or something, but then you gotta go back in. There's no nap taking during a lunch break.
Do you think that naps should be more normalized in American culture, Travis?
Okay, Miss Bustelica.
Based off your naps text, please tell me what you think is an endangered pleasure.
how long are we gonna be talking about naps for?
I don't know, man.
Like, how can you literally go on weeks talking about a nap?
I mean, I guess we're starting to get away from that. We're starting to do like our own counter argument essay. But you know,
Speaking about essays, I got nothing. I thought something would come to me.
nice. What are you writing your essay about?
I am writing my essay on walking being an endangered pleasure because everyone overlooks walking because they're like, I always do it. But no, there's more to walking than just doing it.
Fair enough. I'm talking about skateboarding and the negative stigma around it.
When they have stigmas around it because skateboarding be pretty fun.
Yeah, like more recently, as you know, skateboarding's become more popular, the stigma's starting to go away, but it's still definitely visible. And it's just a really outdated and I don't know. It's an old view that people might have, or skateboarders are like criminals or, you know, punks, etc. And while like that, like, you know, I don't know. I'm trying to think of words right now. Punk music is obviously a part of that culture, obviously, but skateboarding today is not what it was 20 years ago, and it's not what it was 40 years ago. But those same views from that long ago can still be seen today in a much different, you know, now it's a much different climate. It's just not the same. So the views should change, but they haven't. That's my argument, pretty much. However, it is in the Olympics now, so that's kind of cool. Yo, the Olympics really just got canceled.
They did?
The summer ones, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were just like, I'm dumb. I don't pay
No,
attention to the Olympics.
the 2020 Tokyo Olympics were canceled.
Well, I mean, with everything going on, do you really expect them to have that?
No, I didn't expect them to at all, but yeah, that was kind of whack because I was like, oh, skateboarding's gonna be in the Olympics finally, and then they're like, no, pandemic.
Screw Corona, bro. Corona really ruined everything.
Yeah, it did. Well, let's talk about our conversation with Wonderland then.
Yeah, that was a good conversation. Like, we didn't get to like go as in depth as we want to because we were on a time constraint with him. But I feel like we kind of like got like the most important questions in.
Yeah, I think we did, and I'm trying to remember like one point I wanted to make. Oh, he was saying how like it feels good to be coaching tennis again, and like last Friday at the football game, you know, as many worries as I had going into it about, you know, how it was going to be and, you know, that is it going to be like, oh, they play one game and then every player has COVID. I don't know. But I don't know. It wasn't perfect by any means, but it did feel good to be out there again playing music on Friday night.
Yeah, Friday night was pretty dope. It was good, like getting back to somewhat of a normal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I used air quoting from somewhat instead of normal, but
You know, we're tired.
I got the big brain.
Yeah,
I'm not tired because I just chugged a whole Sunny D.
well, I'm tired because we recorded the first half of this like Tuesday at 11 a.m. and now it's Wednesday at 11 p.m.
So
as we normally do.
I go to school on Mondays. Monday when I'm leaving, I see Wonderland just chilling in the hallway, and I texted Jake. I was like, "Oh my god, Jake, do I ask him out? Do I ask him out?" And he didn't answer. He's like, "Ah, you make it." So I just went over and talked to him, and I was like, Wonderland, you want to be on me and Jake's podcast?" And he's like, sure."
Bro, what was that?
I have the word generator on for when we eventually do that, and then an ad came on. But he was kind of just like, "Oh, what do we talk about?" Like that kind of stuff. And then he eventually said yes, and I was like, "Cool." There's one catch though. We record Wednesday nights at 11 p.m. He's like, I can't do that.
Not gonna work because
So-
I'm an adult.
So then we were pretty much just like, okay, we can work around your schedule. So text Jake. I was like, Wonderland said he'd do it, but can't do it that late. So Wonderland, me and him were texting over our mind, and he said, yeah, like 9:15, 9:45 works on like any weekday that's not Wednesday, or 11:15 to 11:45. So I text Jake, and I was like, I'm guessing like 11:15, 11:45, so we're not doing like first thing in the morning. And he's like, yeah. So Tuesday comes. It's like 11:10. I text Jake. I'm hopping in the Google Meet. And then Jake is like, wait, I thought you meant PM.
I'm used to it being PM. So when he said 11:15, I was like, okay, cool. I didn't think about what he had just told me beforehand, about how he said he couldn't do it at 11 p.m. on Wednesday. I was just like, okay. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. That's not PM. So I grabbed a hat and I hopped on Google Meet.
It's pretty fire though. It was some good combos.
It was. Trying to think what else he said.
I mean, one of the questions that we had for him, I kind of answered without us even asking him. One of the questions was like, we knew he had a daughter, but we were kind of like curious, like if she was in school, like what or how he was dealing it. See, she was in school, but
Yeah.
he said how like teachers at Highland were dealing with it. And, like I had no idea that the teachers could bring their kids to school.
Now, obviously, neither did I. I'm not going in, but yeah, that's interesting, and I think it's a pretty cool thing that they're doing there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know that. Well, I guess I don't really have an example of teachers that, like, if Sam was to bring his daughter in, she's school age, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, maybe he can't leave her at home because wife is working. I don't know. I don't know. That's cool. And they have help available for them too.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, these little kids are getting help from high school level teachers, which is really great.
Imagine this like second grader is just like, what? 4 times 2? And just imagine just like Miss Loring being there, be like, kid,
Listen
listen
I'm
here.
doing 4x times 3x squared times 7 radical 2x plus 4 squared to the third power.
I don't even know what you said.
That was me saying random math stuff.
Speaking of Loring, and I'm actually going somewhere with this.
Okay.
So obviously pre-calc, the first little bit is like an algebra review.
Correct.
And the stuff that I'm learning with Miss Rigney, I'm just like understanding more than I ever did with Miss Loring.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like I was thinking about that today. I was like, wait, I remember doing this last year and I had no idea how to do this. I wung it on the quiz. But I was doing a class, I was like, wait, this like makes sense.
Yeah,
So I
it's
mean,
definitely boring. It's pre-calc, but not honors because no.
I had the biggest brain fart in class the other day. So we were doing stuff with like graphs and stuff, and if a graph has like an x squared in it, it's gonna be a parabola, which is just like a u. So Miss
Right.
Rigney is just like, "Oh, Travis, what's this graph shape gonna be?" And I saw it too, and for some reason, my mind was just like a diagonal line. But I was like, but it's not called a diagonal line. What's it called? So I was trying to explain a diagonal line, and then she's looking at me like I'm crazy. And then Evan, who's also in my class, was kind of like a parabola. I was like, oh my god, I'm an idiot. So I look Ms. Rigney right in her eyes. I'm like, I am stupid. Like, and Tyler just like pointed. I was like, I'm really stupid. It's a parabola. I don't know why I thought that, but
You know, honestly, I'm not even doing anything with parabolas right now. Um,
what
I
are you
guess
guys doing?
it's like functions, and we're not graphing them. It's just like solving the function. Is it a function? Is it not a function? What's the inverse function? You know, um, yeah.
That's crazy because we didn't do any of the inverse function stuff, but we did like functions like 2 weeks ago.
Well, I'm in a slow class now, so
Yeah, it's just crazy to like actually like see the difference between the two classes.
yeah. Oh, you know what else we did today, Travis?
We had band practice today.
And you know what we did at band practice?
We wrote a song for Drew.
We did write a song for Joe.
So by the time, because we're posting it Thursday, right?
I guess so,
Which
yeah.
for right now is tomorrow. When the podcast is posted was yesterday. But so I guess we can talk about it. Drew hates country music.
Drew does hate country music.
So we decided to write him a country song called "Ha Ha Drew."
And I guess I'll save the explanation for Matt when he does his like lyric Monday thingy. But it was a lot of fun to make because it was just completely random. And I looked up the most basic chords for a country song. Like that's what I looked up in Google. And it said like C F G. I was like, okay. And Colin's like, play it like this, so they make sure, so we make sure they know we're making fun of it. And I was like, all right. And then Colin just sat in the chair and read the lyrics from his phone.
Yeehaw! I had so much fun doing that at the beginning because
Yeah.
we can talk about the video because it's out now. But
Yeah.
at the beginning, Colin was like, "Okay, Travis, you start." And like right before we started recording, they were saying that we're gonna do the yeehaw at the end. But then he's like, "Travis, you start." And I was like, "I'm just gonna do the yeehaw now." So then I did the yeehaw, and then Colin just like he yells at me, and then I start playing. We get through the song. Colin messes up, drops an F bomb,
He did.
which we kept in there on PG-13. Ooh, but and then we just started doing a bunch of random stuff. Like I had an epic drum solo.
That did happen. They're getting better because you're in school now and you actually get to practice.
Facts. Like, oh, I don't think you can see in the video, but there was a part where I was just going whale on Tom 1 and Tom 2. You know, the two Toms actually on the bass drum. I was like whacking Tom 1 with eventually going to 2, and I was like going so fast. It was like, ooh, the chops are back.
Yeah.
It felt good.
Yeah, I was just kind of playing chords. And then during the last part where we just kind of trash canned, it was I'm just gonna like scratch the guitar and then I like got a random chord that didn't fit in the song and just started playing that. And in the recording, it's just noise.
Mm-hmm. Well, you about ready to get to the random word generator?
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
So the random word this week is so.
So like,
I kid you not, just
oh,
so.
not even like sewing. It's just the word so. No, we can't
So.
talk about that.
The
Or
word so. Yeah, we need a new word.
that's not doing that.
Penalty.
Penalty. Okay. Um.
The refs still suck with their pass interference calls for the
Yeah,
NFL.
that's true. That's true. There's been some ones that are a little iffy.
Dude, last year, the Saints playoff run ending because of a call that should have been PI, offensive PI.
Yeah.
It didn't get called.
Eh.
Like, if you're a Saints fan, you got screwed over by the Vikings again in the playoffs, I'd be pretty mad.
It's kind of funny though.
It's kind of funny. And guess what?
Hmm.
It's not going to happen again this year because Drew Brees is old.
Yeah, Drew Brees is sucking this year. I'm not gonna lie.
I think this is going to be his last season.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
He'll
Might
make
have
his. I have no doubt that the Saints are going to make the playoffs. I feel like they're going to win their wild card round, lose their divisional, and that's it for Drew Brees.
That'd be interesting to see who replaces him.
Who's that one player on their team that plays like literally every position?
Oh, Taysom Hill.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they went with him for a year, trying to
Yeah, I
find
mean,
someone else.
they kind of like if they're making the playoffs, they're way too far up to get a quarterback.
Wait, don't they have Jameis Winston?
Oh yeah, they do have Winston.
So
I
they
guess
probably just go with him.
yeah, they're set with it. You know, he's not the best quarterback. They're set with him. Yeah, because like if they make playoffs this season, there's not too many like quarterbacks, at least I know of, in the draft coming up. Like there's 3 quarterbacks that I know of:
Trevor Lawrence.
Justin Fields and Trey Lance. I don't know anybody else, but
Trevor
and they're
Lawrence is
probably
going to get. Oh, sorry, you can go.
yeah. I'll just go off what you were saying. Trevor Lawrence is probably going to go number 1 to right now. It's going to be the Jets, which unless he doesn't join the draft, and then yeah,
I
just don't make yeah.
I wouldn't blame him if he didn't join the draft because the Jets are just a lost cause. They're a mess right now. And if I was Trevor Lawrence, I wouldn't want to have my career with an organization that has no idea what they're going to do.
Yeah, the coaching sucks. The players are sucking. Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence went there, they'd literally just be wasting his career. And that goes for Justin Fields and Trey Lance, too. I don't think any of them want to go to the Jets.
Don't make the mistake Joe Burrow made going to
Yes.
the Bengals. Yeah.
The Bungles.
You know what? That's a much better team than the Jets, though.
Mm-hmm. Like, the Bengals have potential.
The Bengals could rebound in the future. AJ Green's finally back. Their defense is getting better. Like their defensive line has been pretty solid thus far. Linebackers are kind of corners are kind of they have potential, and they have some pretty solid receivers. Like Tyler Boyd's a good receiver. John Ross is one of the fastest receivers in the league. I can't think of anybody else, but that's 3. Yeah, they're not bad. The Jets, on the other hand, Sam
terrible.
Darnold has potential to be good. It's just that he's stuck on the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Le'Veon Bell decided to go to the Jets for whatever reason.
dummy. They offered him big contract, and he was like, "Ooh, big money."
I'm pretty sure the
Oh,
Steelers offered him a bigger contract, though.
well, he just didn't want to be with Big Ben. He was upset with all the drama going on there. Ow, my elbow.
Well, I think it's about time to get story time because we're at the half-hour mark right now, which means we're into the episode.
The word penalty turned into us talking about football. That's great. And that's all we
Heck
did.
yeah. So, would you like to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first. All right. So, 5th grade in elementary school. Did he do it every year, or like I feel like he started doing? He only did it with 5th graders, right?
I thought he did it with like third, fourth, and fifth graders.
It
Maybe
was
just
all
fourth and fifth.
I don't know. It was with upper grades, but Mr. Dempsey, the gym teacher, he would play soccer with the class that had soccer that day for recess. And so the day that I had it, I was in goalie. I was goal. I was usually goalie pretty often. It was either because they thought I was good goalie or because I sucked at actual soccer. So they're like, "Oh, just go in the net." Um, oh, I got bullied. It's fine. Oh, all right. So Mr. Dempsey's coming towards me. I'm in goal. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna block this shot from Mr. Dempsey and be cool. Man drills it at me. I'm like, it. Yeah, you gotta put it in perspective. This man's like in his 30s, maybe late 20s. I don't know how old he was, and I'm like 11. So he's kicking this ball full force at me, or at least it felt like it. And I'm like, oh God, oh geez. And so he hits me in the balls with the ball. And I'm like,
Oh,
dog. That hurted, man. It was bad. I remember sitting on the ground. I was like, I blocked it. And that, yeah.
I still don't get why he went full force with elementary school kids. There's no need for it.
My mom doesn't like Mr. Dempsey.
I don't think my mom does either. I don't want to speak for her, but I don't think she does either.
Yeah.
But then, us, we grew up loving Mr. Dempsey just because he was
he
the cool gym teacher.
was the best. He always had the cool games to play on the gym. And he played soccer with us at recess. It was fire.
Mm-hmm.
I guess as an adult, remember we had him for life skills.
Yeah.
I'd always come home and tell my mom something I learned in life skills, and apparently half the time what I told her was completely wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why she doesn't like him, because he was literally just telling us, wrong stuff. I couldn't think of a word.
My mom has the nickname for him, Dumpsy Dempsey.
My mom just called him Nugget. Our moms have different nicknames for Mr. Dempsey.
That needs to get bleeped out.
I guess it does, yeah.
That
I didn't really think about it, but yeah, I guess it does.
freaking
Does that need to get bleeped out too, Travis?
freaking isn't a bad word.
Okay.
I was thinking about saying it again, but then I decided not to. We made Autumn do too much work over the past 2 episodes.
Yeah.
You're getting a break this week, Autumn.
Apart from that one bleep there.
But yeah, Mr. Dempsey.
That was that. What's your story?
My story is from a tennis match my freshman year. So, excuse me. It's the Sunny D. But it was the last match of the year. We were against Triton, and I was with my new partner Jeff because Connor went up because Simon got in a fight, wasn't allowed to play. But so it was me and Jeff against 2 kids from Triton, first doubles. And something that Mr. Wonderland always stressed to us was tennis is a gentleman's sport. You should always be calling like your shots honestly, even if it like costs you the game. But I don't know if other schools are held to those standards by their coaches. I'm assuming they are. But let me tell you, those 2 kids from Triton were playing dirty that day. They were making so many bad calls. And like, you can call them out. Like, if they call a shot out of the court, you can kind of be like, are you sure? I thought I saw it going. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they were the ones there. They make the call. So, I'm up at the net. Jeff's behind me. They hit the shot right to me. I just give a little dink over, double bounces. The kid up at the net says, your racket hit the net. And obviously, if your racket hits the net, you lose the point because you're just not allowed to do that. But I was like, dude, my racket didn't even come close to the net. Like, the net was right here. My racket was probably like right here to it. Above it. Above the net.
Yeah, because you have to have it above to hit it over. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mans goes over to his coach and says, listen, I saw him hit his racket against the net. What do we do? I get called over. He's like, what happened? I'm like, listen, sir, with all the respect, I was the one who hit the shot. I have no reason to lie. I was the one right there. I did not hit the net. So coaches were like, okay, you get the point. Keep playing. And then later in the match, it was weird. So the rackets have, the face and then the throat. That's what they call it, where like that little hole is, and then the grip. The guy who tried calling me out for the net shot, he was up at the net. The ball hits the throat, gets stuck in there, and then pops out and double bounces on our side. And we're all kind of confused. We're like, what happened? Like, what do we do? So we went over to the coaches, explained, and like, we've never seen anything like that. And since technically the ball like stuck to his racket, it was considered, I don't know why I used 3 fingers for that, but it was considered a double hit. So me and Jeff got the point. And I didn't want to bring this up because I completely forgot about it, but me and Jeff had the most amazing point that game. So they hit it like wide in the corner to the front. I sprint to go get it. I'm like almost on the other team's court. I whack it over the net. They hit it back so deep. Then because Jeff had to like kind of move up a little bit because I wouldn't be able to get back in time. So if they shot it short, he'd be able to get it. But if they shot it long, he'd be able to get it. But they shot it so long and away from him. He sprints so far back. He hits a behind the head backward shot. It goes onto their side. By that time, I'm back in. I'm at the front. They hit it right at me, and I just angle it away. But that was probably like one of me and Jeff's finest moments
That's
that
kind of
whole
funny,
season.
bro. That got me
Mhm.
hyped up. I was like, yo.
Like, dude, me and Jeff got so hype after. Like, we were like, yeah, let's go. Like, we hugged, we touched rackets. It was a whole moment.
That's pretty fire, dude. Your story was a lot more fun than mine was. Then again, I don't really have many stories to tell. I guess I could always tell one about baseball, but I'll save it for another time.
Mm-hmm. Well, episode's done. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.